Most men want more clarity, more respect, more control over their lives, but few know how to get it. Welcome to the Bro Coach Podcast with Dennis Procopio, the founder of Man Up Life Coaching and the man behind thousands of transformed lives. Not red pill, not therapy, just the evolved man's blueprint for strength, presence, and purpose.
All right, man. Welcome to the Bro Coach Podcast. I'm Andrew Bontz here with Dennis Procopio, and we have another guest this week. We bring on Jonah Dominek. He's a Marine, entrepreneur, and a current client of Man Up Life Coaching. Been working with Dennis for a bit. So great to have you here, Jonah, and I'll kick it off to Dennis.
Hey, thanks. So you know me, I'm Dennis. I'm the bro coach, as it were. And I invited Jonah here today because he and I have hung out together. We've done some off-roading together. I find him to be a real cool guy. And I think he speaks really well to any male audience that is looking for something in their lives to help them figure out where they're not performing optimally and try to fix it. And that can mean therapy, that can mean life coaching, and anything anywhere in between. So Jonah, it's like, thanks for coming here to sit with me today and to chat with me. And I want to just introduce you and say, who are you? Why are you here? And what are you hoping to talk to the audience about today?
Well, I think, Dennis, thanks again for having me on. I think that my story from inception is kind of interesting in that I've lived a handful of lives. I would say, if you met me when I was young, you probably wouldn't have bet on me. I wouldn't have bet on me. I was a extremely troubled child dealing with abandonment issues from my father, angry, didn't get good grades, didn't have much drive. Was fortunate to have a wonderful mother that was there to support me. But at the end of the day, especially being a father now, I realize how important it is that there's a strong male figure in boys' lives. Right. I think my journey, to bring me here where I can finally say that I'm proud of myself and have made some successes and have worked through all of these different channels to get to where I am and to meet you, is kind of an interesting story. So I think that's kind of the idea of today.
That's awesome. So before we go any further, last week I had a guest she lives in Los Angeles. She's killing it, just absolute like boss energy, crushing in life, entrepreneurial energy as well. Is married to a woman. And because I work with her brother, she was asking me, I just seek to understand why this whole man up, men need men thing is baked into your counseling, when it seems to me like some of the messaging that you're sending when you white label it instead of putting branding on it would be as applicable to me as a person than to anyone else. And so coming off of the heels of that, yet without trying to be like, she's wrong or anything like that, because that's not the game I'm playing. I'm interested in someone who's a father of a son, and who isn't necessarily a tiki torch carrying freaking Proud Boy, who is saying, hey, I live in California. I am very open to liberal arguments, but I still insist that men benefit from male guidance. That's the sweet spot for me. That's what I'm hoping that we can sort of flesh
Yeah.
out. So can you tell me about your journey to help tee up
Sure.
that
Yeah.
idea?
Only a lot to be said about that alone, but yeah, my specific journey was, I kind of filled in the basics of the beginning there, which was, young kid, father abandoned me when I was young, about 6 years old, so old enough that I knew him. Um, and I just became angry. Um, I was angry at the world. I was angry at myself. I didn't have any, you know, didn't have a lot of self-worth. It was pretty, you know, pretty dark. It was my teenage years, so I try to think back at them, and sure, I had fun and I had great relationships and I made great friends, but I was also going down a dark path. That if there weren't some changes made, some bad things could happen. Now, luckily, I did come from a good, well-educated family that expected more out of me, and I expected more out of me because of that. So I was fortunate to be, you know, surrounded by a loving, caring family. Um, my mother was, always there and supportive, no matter what, no matter how much shit I put her through, she was there for it.
Mhm.
But when I graduated high school, I had a .4 grade point average, literally. I .4. I had to go to summer school to get my diploma, and I was not ready to go to college. Obviously, I couldn't get in. I didn't know how to study. I didn't have any of the tools. I expected more of myself, and that was the Baywatch days back then. And so, living in Michigan, watching Baywatch, everybody was like, "Oh man, look at that place." And I just kind of, I went and on a whim one day, went to the Marine recruiter. No one had dragged me out to San Diego and make a change in my life, and signed up for the Marine Corps. I didn't talk to any other services. I just walked in. I said, sign me up as infantry. They gladly took my signature, and came home, told my mom. She wept because she's a pacifist and, just was not, she just couldn't believe it. But it got me out of Michigan, and it was a forced change, that I knew that I needed. And I just kind of threw myself into it. Um, Later in my life, I realized that I do this and have done this quite a few times, pivot like this quickly. But this one was pretty dramatic, and it was really good for me. It got me out of that environment. It got me to have a new perspective on life. And got me a little bit of discipline that I needed at the time. I kind of liken it to, I played hockey growing up, and my son's a goalie now. He's been playing for 11 years. Sometimes in a hockey game, if you're down, it may not be the goalie's fault, but the coach will pull the goalie out, just to get just a momentum shift of the team,
Yep.
and it works. And that's kind of what I needed. I needed a momentum shift. That's what the Marine Corps was for me. It was pulling the goalie, you know. I spent some time out here in Southern California, ended up going back home, was ready for college, came home, went to college went back in Michigan.
Okay.
And pretty quickly realized that I wanted to get back to California. So I ended up, I ended up scuba diving, actually learning how to scuba dive in the Great Lakes of all things, and fell in love with it, and was like, okay, how do I combine this into some sort of career? Kind of found a commercial diving school in LA, signed up, and got myself back out to the West Coast as fast as I could. Without getting into many of the weeds and details of it all, I got through commercial diving school, made some iterations of what I did, ended up down in San Diego working as a welding inspector because that's what I specialized in, and got into my first long-term marriage relationship with my son's mom at the time. It was I don't want to say it was dysfunctional, but it was not the right match for me. And
Sure.
it didn't help me develop as a human being or as a man, that relationship. It kind of stunted me, without getting into the details of all, but it stunted me as a man in a way that I didn't quite expect. After that relationship broke up, which was 12 years, I was lost and devastated and trying to figure out what happened and where I'm going. And I had a 6-year-old son, and, how can I be there for him and how can I be there for me? And so I went into therapy, found a great therapist. She worked on relationships, was really well known in San Diego. Um, but Freudian type therapy here, right? So, really understanding the why of who you are, which is what I always kind of compare and contrast the difference between therapy and the type of coaching that I'm doing now. Therapy gives you the why and gives you an understanding, which is great. It was really good to have that and have that understanding, but I didn't make any changes. Even though I understood it, it was really hard for me to make any changes in my life. I went into another relationship, 4 years, failed, came out of it crushed, went back to the same therapist. She helped me again, kind of understand again why I'm having these habits and why I have these patterns, but I still didn't have any actionable items that were realistic for me to follow. So, continuing to repeat my mistakes, even though I understood, yeah, my father was this, and these are that my past has shaped all of these ways that I have relationships. Um, so it kind of, to skip forward to where I finally realized that I needed to find a man, that specialized in men, is I kind of realized the difference between therapy and coaching is that men need actionable items. Men need direction, and accountability. Not just understanding or somebody listening to them, you know. And that's kind of the difference. I feel coaching gives actionable items, accountability, and directions. Like, just tell me, you know, tell me what to do. How do I fix? What are the instructions? And
Yes.
I know I'm damaged. What do I do tomorrow, today, in a month? And that's really, the final polishing that I'm now working on with Dennis and have been for 3 years. And quite frankly, I feel like have made some pretty good strides. I don't know if Dennis would feel the same way, but I really, it's been helpful.
That was delivered like someone who, like, addresses audiences for a living. That's really an impressive delivery.
Oh,
There were no filler words. You leaned right into the mic. You sound like a boss. So I
well,
already
it's my
feel
story, so
no,
pretty
but
easy
I
to
mean,
talk
yeah,
about.
like, but I mean, trust me, I've had to pull teeth to get people to show up authentically and authoritatively, and I really commend you genuinely for just sort of how you delivered that. I took some notes and I want to ask some questions. I'm hoping that my questions will I'm gonna give you a question, you'll give me a short answer. Give you a question, you give me a short answer because I'm aiming towards something here. So let's
Okay,
establish rules. Does that work?
sure.
Okay, cool. By the way, I notice about your mic, it seems to be directional. So when you lean in and you talk in its direction, boom, you sound like the voice of God in my ears.
Okay, I'll
Um,
stay forward.
yeah. So the first thing I wanted to ask is you're actually technically Dr. Jonah Dominek, so there was also some chiropractic in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, my story could go on for a couple hours here, but yeah, so my father was a chiropractor. Here's the twist to all of this is I have a stepfather that was in my life since I was 6 years old and is an amazing man and an amazing role model for me.
Uh-huh.
So I was very lucky. I had a great mother and I had a great stepfather who did step in. Interestingly enough, the damage had been done when I was young.
Mm,
And you never really think about that. You don't realize until you're a dad how important those young years are. And boy, the contrast for me was a lot. But yeah, so my stepfather was a chiropractor, had a very successful business for 30 some years in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Always looked up to him. It was something that for me in my younger years, obviously I was not ready to tackle that type of schooling.
mm,
after I got out of commercial diving school and I was working as an inspector topside because I just didn't want to leave California and go to the Gulf of Mexico and live in Louisiana. No offense, Dennis.
Yeah, no worries.
um, but I got bored. I got bored with my job. It was mind-numbingly boring. And I just said, you know what? I'm ready to go back to school. My wife, Gavin's mom, was doing well. She's an accountant, and I discussed it with her, and I actually had to go back to school for a year to do all my pre-med, like weekend crash course pre-med, for a year. And then we moved to San Francisco, and I did 4 years of chiropractic school up there, which was a great eye-opening experience. I got to meet a bunch of wonderful people. School was amazing. I was surrounded by all sorts of highly educated, driven people from all over the world that were coming in. So that education was really pivotal for me as well, even though I don't practice anymore. I came back to San Diego. I practiced for a few years, and through a combination of some injuries and some greed, with some investments that I had going on, I ended up making a decision to close my practice and follow some money. That all came crashing down with the housing market, and I found myself jumping back into inspection, which is, what I knew I could make money with pretty quickly. But at that point, I knew I wanted to be a business owner. There was no question about it. I had the entrepreneurial mindset at that point. So if I was getting back into this industry that I left for a reason, then I was going to really do something with it. And within a year, I had come up with a good idea that would plug into the industry and help people out that nobody else was doing, and started a company, my first company, West Coast. So long could go on for quite a while discussing all of the entrepreneurial ups and downs, but it had some hard hits with partners and ups and downs with the industry. But yeah, have found some success over the years and have taken some hits, and I feel like I'm in a good place right now of building this thing out on the final stretch and hopefully selling soon.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I mean, I don't want to get sidetracked on Cairo, but I will just say I actually have a client right now who is great guy, has is working in chiropractic and has done so, and is now in the place where he's looking to pivot to real estate. And so it's just weird as I'm talking to you to realize, oh, he's going to find value in this. Just hearing a fellow chiropractor who is, almost not apologizing, like, yeah, I used to be Dr. So-and-so, and now I'm a whatever, the freaking guy who hangs out in concrete tunnels and inspects welding, joints or whatever. But let me get back to the piece that I was going towards. So you were someone who, so we've got your backstory. You're a Marine, you're a chiropractor, you're a scuba diving instructor, you're a Michigan guy raised by his mom, dad deuced out at 6 years old, stepdad who you love, and that's all great and everything, but the damage was already done because you were abandoned by your father figure during your formative years. It affected who you are. It gave you a sense of purpose. You went to the Marines looking for direction, accountability, and a strong, dare I say, masculine environment, although of course they're female Marines, so we're back to that. But you chose the Marines because that was structure, it was order, it was all of that. You end up in San Diego, you have a female therapist who you say that was Freudian, and I'm like, yeah, kind of, because
Well, I mean, there's I think it's really, I believe in Freudian type psychology or whatever it is. I totally believe we're all products of our environment. I mean, we are. It's undeniable, especially as a father. You realize that, we carry the damage and pain of our own parents around with us all the time. So there's so much value to understanding that, but understanding it doesn't mean you're able to change it. You know what I mean? It does help. It helps. But for me, as a male, I need fucking directions.
Yeah, no,
You know what
I
I mean?
100%
Like,
get it. Yeah,
I
no, I
don't
get
need to
it.
just understand. Like, it's like, okay, great. That's great to know. I don't feel so bad about myself. I forgive this guy, whatever. Now what?
Now what? And
You
so,
know what I mean?
yeah, no, do I know what you mean? It's like,
Yeah.
know this song, I wrote it,
Yeah.
So,
And working with you, which the thing that's been so great is, right from the start, it's not that you don't have empathy for that part of my life or those things. You certainly do. You're an incredibly empathetic person, but it's not your focus. Your focus is where are we now? How do we move forward and how do we make you better? And I'm going to give you actionable items that are going to make that happen.
yes, that's
Uh,
right.
and so that's the difference, and when we talk about men and women and, you know, I don't know. And, maybe we'll end up cutting this one out, but speaking to a woman that lives with a woman, I have no issues with that at all, but it's kind of hard to get perspective on the difference between men and women unless you're living in a traditional relationship where a man and a woman are together. You clearly see the differences, I mean, I clearly see what my woman needs versus what I need. There's just no question about it. It's not even like the fact to question, do men and women need different type of counseling or different type of coaching, or is there value to a man speaking to a man only, is a kind of a ridiculous one to me. But that's me.
No, this is no holds barred. When I invite a guest on, I want their authentic position. I want their truth. What I will do is validate your feelings. What I will do is hear your thoughts and or arguments. What I will do is synthesize that all into my data corpus, because I learn every time I have a conversation. Now, you being someone who manages ADHD, a big part of, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag
No,
there.
it's
Okay.
it's important.
Okay. Yeah. So it's one of the reasons that having a male coach who splits the difference, and let me finish this piece. Don't steal my Frisbee here. One of the observations that I was pointing out is that you chose a female therapist. Yes, I understand she had great reviews, blah, blah, blah. But having come from using a mother in your life for counsel, and I was in this position myself,
Mm-hmm.
I trusted a female therapist, whereas a male therapist, there was a prejudice that he wouldn't be smart enough to work with me. And there was a concern that he wouldn't have the emotional intelligence that I needed to understand me. And that, of course, that challenges your masculinity. Like, am I different? Am I special? Am I effeminate or whatever? Do I have special needs of some sort? And so what I'm getting at here is, when I made the Freudian joke, the joke was Oedipal. It was, you told me that you chose a female.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Totally.
told me that you chose a female therapist, and then it's like, lie on mommy's couch and talk about, whatever, cigars. Yeah. Or whatever. And so,
I mean, my mom is still, always has been, that person that I call when I really need comforting. She's that call.
yes.
And so you're right. I never actually thought about that I subconsciously chose a female, probably for some of those reasons.
Precisely for those
Yeah,
reasons, I would argue.
yeah,
Um, and again, out of respect for Ryan last week, I'm doing the best I can to play devil's advocate and to say, can I have this conversation and remove gender? Can I say he lived with this person who was your mother? She had a certain set of attributes, and he then went and looked for those attributes in another therapist and found them, and it doesn't have to do with biological sex or gender. Now, we're here today because you've said that therapy was good for you until it wasn't. And one of the things all of my clients who have experienced therapy, either with a female or male therapist, is it's always the same. They say, dude, I did therapy. Uh, I don't know. I guess it was fine, but where it finally burned out for me is I felt like I would sit in the office, I would feel like a patient. Being a patient made me feel like there was something wrong with me, because if there weren't something wrong with me, I wouldn't be here. I was going to this person who had a degree in fixing crazy people. This is how they would kind of frame it.
yeah,
And so I would walk in with the idea that they're a doctor who fixes crazy. I would immediately begin, um, you know, my body language would be like shoulders down. It would feel like I was like in a confessional of sorts, like, yeah, I'm bad in some way. There was immediately a sort of a hierarchical dynamic because there's a plaque on the wall behind them that says they graduated from Harvard with a PhD in behavioral sciences or whatever. And I felt scrutinized. I felt, um, like I felt broken, and I was willing to be vulnerable and admit that I was broken, but then all we did is talked about how I was broken and talked about my feelings and how I feel about being broken. Well, how the fuck do you think I feel? I feel like I want it fixed.
yeah,
And so when you like, why do you think I'm paying you? Fix my shit. Um, and so when you go to a psychiatrist and they say, here, take some pills, and those temporarily work, you're like, well, huh, at least that changed something. Whereas when you're 3 years into therapy and you're still lying on the couch and talking about your feelings and coming out feeling like worse than when you went in. And this isn't to shit on therapy. I'm just talking about the typical male experience,
yeah.
and
I think that is the typical male experience.
where the male, to be fair, is a subset of men who satisfy my demographic. Let's be fair, right?
No, and I think that's the key to it also, is that, I think I'm a little different, in that I feel like I was lucky with the therapist that I had. I'm also a type of man that is willing to open up and really look at his feelings.
Mm,
Most men,
mm.
you know, um, so I think it's good to understand the why, like I said before, why are you like this? But that just doesn't, for most guys, help change anything. And in reality, most of us know it already deep down, I mean, it's important to be able to forgive yourself and forgive, whoever it is that you feel or may have done the damage to you or contributed to it or whatever. That's all fine
Mm,
and dandy.
mm.
But for most men, again, at the end of the day, like, yeah, we can say we're fucked up. So what am I doing? What do I do? Like, tell me what to do, you know? And, the mindful practices that uh, you teach, along with, the conversations and the way that you hold them are exactly that. It's the stuff that gets down to actionable items, and maintaining homeostasis through all of it, physical homeostasis, you know.
You know, um, I love when I have a client who drops a 5-syllable banger like homeostasis. So we're going straight to the top with this one right now. No, but you're right. There is homeostasis, establishing a baseline, and leveling out the roller coaster is important for a guy who secretly worries, and that worry turns into either reactive action that in retrospect, I wish I hadn't jumped. I felt foggy
Right.
and I jumped. Or it turns into the opposite of that, which is doom scrolling on the couch with a weed pen or something. It's hiding.
Hey man, stop spinning your wheels. If you're serious about leveling up your career, your relationships, and your mindset, it's time to man up. At Man Up Life Coaching, we cut the excuses and build discipline, confidence, and purpose. Book your free strategy session now at manuplifecoaching.com/application. Don't fill it out if you're not ready to grind, but if you are, this call could change your life. Man Up Life Coaching, elite life coaching for men by men.
Yeah.
Because you just are bottomed out. And so you're riding that up and down roller coaster. And then add ADHD to that.
Yeah.
Anyone who is in the audience that is ADHD knows, A, they're the smartest person in the room, and B, they're the biggest waste of intelligence in the room because they're not freaking able to organize themselves and do anything useful with it because there's so much freaking lateral movement, and there's an emotional component that can be debilitating. So what I'm going to ask you is this, and I'm going to give Andrew a chance to chime in as well, because I want to rope him into this chat because I'm interested in some of his observations. But my main question here is, when you said, Dennis, you have actionables that are a difference maker for me. You have a pedagogy. You have a systematic approach. I've been with you for 3 years, and even though you're loose like jazz, there's still obviously a methodology here. It's still a loosely constructed song. You might play with pocket, but you're going somewhere, and there's obviously, you know what you're doing. What is your experience in not only the actionables, but in the quality of the exchange? It almost sounds like I'm fishing for compliments, but I'm not. I want somebody who doesn't know what this is to hear a real bro who also happens to be like a Marine, a doctor, like a dad, a real fucking guy, say, this is what works specifically about this approach for me. Like, put them in the room with you for a session.
I mean, let's start off with, your ability to listen, and which is fascinating to me, especially seeing what your schedule looks like and understanding how many guys you deal with every day. To be able to be as present as you are with me every time we speak, it kind of blows my mind. From this day that I met you, our first interaction, I spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke, and then you fired back all of this, kind of pinned me really quickly, and took me back. I was like, whoa, yeah, that's me. You're right. You got it. So that was a start, but you bring that every day, and, you have the methodology of, what I says, what I say brings us to homeostasis, which is, the continued things that we need to do every single day to kind of keep ourselves balanced. And as somebody who's ADD, is very important, but, you're no bullshit when it comes to what's going on. And we start cycling through all of my issues, challenges, whatever you want to call them. You have insightful, actionable items every day for that week, and that's what I need. I need fucking direction. I don't normally read them when I get them, but it's good to have somebody at least give them to me.
I mean, that's how I make a living. That's why you're still here, bro.
So,
First of all, that's dope. And I really appreciate that. And I'm going to just level with you. Like, I'm not gonna be the chick with big tits who's like, oh, these, like, I don't know what my strengths are. One of my talents is that I paid the iron price for my ability to read people. I was raised in a freaking survival situation. It should have killed me. It didn't. I had to be able to read people to survive. I grew up with a freaking crazy mom who was also wicked intelligent. So I had to be able to read not just women, but like alpha, psycho, disco, beta, whatever her thing was.
Well, your understanding of women is really where you shine, which is pretty wild too. Which I don't think a lot of guys will understand when they think of a man coach.
Right.
I mean, what you bring to the table. I mean, when we role play, you're like, I'm going to be her now. And you just fucking nail it.
Put on that outfit you like?
I mean, it kills me. And I'm just like, you're right. And then when I go and apply that to my relationship, everything you say is right. I'm like, hey, this is the guy. So
yeah. And so, that's actually really funny. So this is where I'll loop Andrew in. Andrew, how tall are you?
6'5".
How much do you weigh?
260.
What's your body fat percentage right now?
20.
Big boy. Okay. Andrew is the guy who, when you see him passing you in the dark alley, you go, oh crap, God of War over here is passing me by. It's a coin toss if he has like a battle axe hanging off of his belt. And yet when you get to know this dude, he's a giant, like, nice guy, like absolute sweetheart. 3 daughters. What are your daughters' ages, Andrew?
15, 13, and 11.
Oh boy.
15, 13, and 11. Andrew, just to give Jonah an idea of who you are, and I don't think we've ever done this in one of our podcasts before, but since we're just bros talking bro shit, give him your story. This is how I met Dennis. This is why I'm here. And here's what I want to lean into. I want to lean into the failure with chicks thing, the, kind of Samson and Delilah, like going for the spicy chick who, cuts your hair and finds your Achilles heel and all of this, this propensity for, being, continually attracted to your kryptonite, your femme fatale, and the process that we went through with getting you to date again, where you landed, and how there's 3, if you want to go with this alpha thing, there's a lot of fucking alpha energy in this room right now. And yet for the people who think that Andrew Tate, these little red pill fucks that are like hanging off of Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan's absolute fucking cockshaft, I want them to hear a bunch of grown men who could whoop the piss out of them tell them you're mistaken about masculinity. There is a, dare I say, feminine or sensitivity component. And again, I guess in a way I am kind of circling back to my session with Ryan again. So tell your story.
So I went through a divorce in 2020, was the nice guy, did all like the covert contracts, gold retriever mentality, if I do this, I should get this. A lot of that, like, what do you mean? I took out the garbage. I do all of these things. Like, I should get like what I want to get. Like, I should get sex, or I should get, validation. Right. And came from that post-divorce, spent a few years reading and watching every YouTube video, podcast. I'm like figuring out like, okay, how do I be a man? Cause like something's broken and I need to figure this shit out. And, part of that's like kind of figuring out how to date again in your late 30s, where you're like, oh shit, I haven't had to go get a number or, figure out how to get a woman naked, in a very long time. So how the hell do I do that? Did the dating app stuff, learned a lot, started a TikTok channel, grew to 20,000 followers there talking about dating stories. And that kind of led into a podcast. I started a podcast called Resisting Beta, the men's health podcast, because I realized through all of the books and stuff, there was like, there's a lot of like that. I reframe beta as like overly feminine energy, right? Where you're, in which is also is a blessing and a curse, where if you are overly feminine, you stay in your feelings, you take everything personal, and you like don't tell people when they've wronged you, and you avoid conflict and all of that shit, without balancing that out with the, masculine polarity energy, it becomes a problem. So that was kind of therapeutic. And that's actually how I met Dennis. He was a guest on my podcast, actually pretty early on in the podcast. I had another guest that was a masculine feminine polarity coach, who was one of my first clients. I learned a lot from that too. And, built myself back up again post-divorce, and thought I was ready to go into dating because I hadn't necessarily taken the time off of women. I went right from the divorce into the dating apps and like dopamine,
fill the void.
Like,
you're like, I'm worth something.
Yeah. Like, hey, all these women, like I'm 6'5", 260. When people say they struggle on dating apps, I don't relate to them because I have some of the characteristics that. Yeah, I have some of the characteristics that women on those apps are filtering for. So
my god,
I got a lot of practice in dating. Kept attracting these like boss babe, energy women. Kind of like the entrepreneurs, the nurses, the doctors, that kind of stuff. Found one who owned. She's from Brazil, which I felt was very exciting.
Brazil.
She owned a ballet studio and was starting a coaching business, and was had the ballet body, and she looked very feminine, moved very feminine, right? But it also had like a mean side to her where she'd get mad. Like I've never seen a woman get as mad as her. Like she'd get so mad, like this vein in her forehead. And
it's a warning sign.
Oh yeah, you're telling me now. Thanks a lot. And that like
profile picture,
and it wasn't necessarily yelling at me. It was yelling at her daughter, because her daughter was obsessive defiance disorder.
Yeah,
I think is what it was. Diagnosed. In watching that, and then having my daughters around, that created this like funky, swampy, like nervous. It shut down my nervous system. Where like there were nights where she would get home after studio lessons at like 8:30 at night, and I would go to bed, and I'd hide basically, so I wouldn't have to deal with her and her daughter coming home. I'd be like fake sleeping in the bedroom when they got home.
Playing possum,
super brave, like prisoner. I'm a man. I'm gonna hide in the bedroom and
I know the feeling.
Jerk off in the bathroom so I can fall asleep. Yeah. So that relationship obviously didn't go great. I proposed to her. She said yes, but I proposed in a way where she was like, she found out something that I didn't tell my ex-wife. I didn't tell my ex-wife that she was moving in with me.
Okay.
And then she took that as like I'm running away, and she started running away. And I had an engagement ring that I gotten from my mother, my grandma, when she passed away. And I proposed to like, which is a great time to propose.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Right. I did the thing. Literally.
So
when everything was going to shit, I'm like, well, maybe this will fix it.
Yeah. Nope. So we were engaged for a bit, and then it just reached I was also going through a custody battle at the time, and because I had moved 45 minutes north to be closer to her, because she lived an hour north of me, so it's kind of like in the middle. And my ex-wife, probably back to court because of that move.
Yeah.
So my life was I've never been that stressed. Like I probably added like that what Barack Obama went through when he was from pre-president to post-president. Like I
Yeah.
never had this much
All
grief.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Super stressful scenario that I went through, and thankfully ended that relationship mainly to end the custody battle because I was losing, even though I'm a very present father. The courts don't care about that. They don't. They just care about a lot of logistics and a lot of things that I was blinded by emotion because and I wanted to stay in that relationship because I've never felt as loved by someone like before, right? I did not have
Yeah.
that
Or you
marriage.
thought.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
let me just say real quick. So you were, because I'm Italian, so I know how the upside of that spicy passion can be a drug, but like you said, the downside, the chick who tells you and unironically, I will cut you, you know,
Right.
that's the game we played. But so anyway, you'd never experienced that before. You're a
Yeah.
Midwestern guy, you end up with this spicy like Brazilian who loved you. You had that experience. It was something that you wanted again in your life. You confused arguably lust for love in a way.
Well, I think I was trying to find self-worth through someone else's love of me,
Yep.
right? Like is what I
Yep.
in retrospect learned, right?
And
So
your understanding of love, or our understanding of
yeah.
love at those points in our lives, is not real love.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I went on one date after that relationship ended, jumped right back on the apps, just like hard stop. And then that thankfully my financial position had shifted at that point because I was no longer in the custody battle. I was like, okay, I got some extra money. Like I need a coach because I'm not doing this again. Reached out to Dennis and he, worked with him for, oh, for the first few months of the breakup, which was like, I was, I was, a- I was a mess. Like I basically going through that like drug recovery of all of that dopamine and that relationship drug
Yeah.
that you have to like that I didn't go through previously. Like I had to be able to like detox myself from
Yeah,
it.
you
So I
really
could like
do. I mean, that's
be
part of
normal.
I mean, you can call it love addiction, whatever it is, right? But it is that those types of relationships that are so tumultuous like that, it
Yeah.
really does give off the same types of whatever it is, the like a drug, you know what I mean? It's like the ups and downs is like getting a hit and then coming down and getting a hit and coming down. And so when you leave it all and it's all gone, all of a sudden that crash is really something, you know?
Yeah. And then basically Dennis suggested, which he never tells you what to do. He just suggests like, hey, can I? And you're like, yeah, I should do that. I went on this
Yeah, right.
woman moratorium, basically like no flirting, nothing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
basically through his process of that he walks you through, figured out the difference between self-worth and self-esteem. Like I had previously tried to build my self-worth by just doing things and creating things and building things and being impressive and receiving that validation my whole life from exterior things pointing at me. And he showed through working with him, it was figuring out like, wow, I've never loved, it sounds super corny, but it's just true. I've never loved myself more than I do at this moment. Right. And it was through that process. And then after coming to that conclusion to where it's like, wow, I'm good being alone. I don't really need a woman. All of a sudden I attracted this like
Yeah,
beautiful feminine goddess of who is super nurturing
uh-huh.
and quiet and loving and motherly, and the girls instantly, really related with her. And now all
Bro,
of a sudden
bro, bro,
it's
bro.
crazy.
He just put quiet in like the top 3. I just gotta point that out. Like the fact that he
I
gets
mean,
along with
you
the
know
3
what, though?
daughters, that was all the
Hey,
way down here.
that's great. It's funny though. I mean, you're telling the same. I've got a very similar experience, and Dennis walked me through a couple relationships there, and had some pretty poignant opinions about a bunch of them until I spent a decent amount of time alone on his behest, and then lo and behold, same thing happened to me. I attracted this amazing goddess that is like fulfilled my life and is there for my son and is caring and nurturing, and I just would have never expected it.
And by quiet, it was like quiet energetically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not
There's
obedient.
the
We get it. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
read this and be like, "That's what
Either
you love
way.
about me." That I shut the fuck up. That I think it and don't say it.
we all know what the loud woman energy
Right.
is,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's
you feel
us.
it.
That's what this is. This is basically
totally.
a stitching bitch without fucking yarn.
My girl's always telling me you're talking too loud, and I know I'm doing it right now too, but
It's good shit. Hey, let me grab the mic for a second, you fellas, because I'm looking at the time. We're 8 minutes out.
all right.
Jonah, what is it about coaching with a man, and try to keep it at or under about 3-4 minutes? What is it about coaching with a man that you have learned is critical beyond just direction and accountability and the fact that we fix it? What is, if a guy is listening to this and thinking, I have big titty in the sky syndrome, and I admit it. I do seek female approval. I do worry about how big my social dick is and try to get everybody to think I'm the man because of what I'm driving or what I'm wearing or how how visible my abs are or whatever. And I'm really picking up on these guys saying, that they are critical of themselves no matter how much self-esteem they have because of how good they look on paper. There's still this sort of existential crisis that they experience because at the end of the day, you're just a dude who has to look in yourself in the mirror and either say, I like you or I don't like you. What is it about the working with a dude experience? And I'm not even pitching Man Up Life coaching. I'm just pitching like the value of men coaching men.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be careful on how I say this because as you brought up earlier, the Andrew Tate, manosphere shit that's going on these days is that you have to be very careful when you just say generalize men coaching men, because I think there's a lot of male coaches out there that are just absolute dog shit. If their landing page is them standing next to a Lamborghini, like holding up a stack of cash, then don't work with them. You know what I mean? Where you bring value is you understand what a real man is and what it is to be a real man. And that is being compassionate. That's being your deep understanding of women, from a male perspective is what sets you apart from everybody else. You understand that providing and protecting and having compassion is what being a man is about, you know? And so I don't want to say that generalize by saying, male coaching men need men. There's a lot of men out there that I think are going to do damage to other men, and calling themselves coaches. And you differentiate yourself from all of that. And I'm assuming that all the rest of your coaches do as well, because you've hand selected them. Yeah, I don't know what those other guys are like aside from listening to enough podcasts and seeing what's going on in the world right now. I think it is important that men find supportive men who are actually teaching what real manhood is about, and that's not puffing out your chest. That's not, flaunting your money and disrespecting women. having deep understanding of who you are, who women are, how we integrate into this world together, and how we can be respectful and protective and providing for each other, and that's something that you bring. So there's a difference there. But and I don't know any other male coaches. I'm just saying I know what's going on out there. And
Yeah,
you're
no, I mean, yo, I'm flattered, and I gotta just say, I really feel, uh, I really feel like I'm standing in my purpose when a guy who I respect as much as I respect you, and who just does not bullshit, period, tells it like it is, says something like that. I actually didn't see it coming, and thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. You're in it.
All right, cool. Um, Here's a question. How much longer do you think you and I have together? What do you think you still have to do?
Fuck. I think that I'm in this transition right now, as you know.
Mhm,
I'm looking at exiting, or at least finding a clean path for exit of my business.
mhm,
Um, I think there are still some, potential pitfalls that could come up.
mhm,
And uh, how there's a lot of times when you and I talk and we just shoot the shit.
mhm,
And that's great, you know?
mhm.
That's great also because I've got someone that I can, just every week, I got an hour to sit down and whatever it is. But when the shit's real and I've got things, which I do quite often, and most people do that have lives,
Mhm,
um, I've got someone that I know I can purge to, whether it's about my relationship or my work. Um, and I know I need that in my corner still. My journey isn't over. So I feel like I've made a lot of progress, but there's always more. And having you there as my safety net or whatever you
mhm.
want to call it is reassuring.
Your
So
training wheels. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, your training wheels, because um, my legacy isn't teaching guys to ride with training wheels. My legacy is teaching guys to ride without training wheels,
yeah,
so that you can then pay that forward by teaching other guys to ride without training wheels at some point in whatever capacity, as a father,
right.
as a business owner, as a community member.
Yeah.
Um,
And especially as someone with ADD, and I'm sure there's a lot of people like me out there, I need I need accountability and I need to stay focused. It's easy for me to get spun out. My thing is I don't sit on the couch and doom scroll. I'll get hyper focused on things that aren't necessarily important and kind of let my mind, run it. I'll be running in circles doing 50 million things that are not moving me forward. And so it's good to know that on Friday I've got this literal safety net that I'm can go charging into, flailing my arms. And you're like, whoa there, buddy. Slow down.
yeah, yes,
You know?
indeed. Yes, indeed. You know what? You're reminding me of the relationship between a drummer and a bass player. Earlier, you said homeostatic, and then I um, simplified baseline for the audience, and said, when I said baseline, I meant BASE, baseline, but
Yeah.
there's also sort of a homophonic thing going on there, which is different than homophobic. Don't get that twisted.
Yeah.
Um, we really love men here, and that's our show.
Yeah.
No, but but baseline, BASSLINE, when you are a drummer, which I literally am, um, and you, like the old joke, how do you know when a drummer's knocking at your door? Because he speeds up. So a drummer has a tendency, you could start by playing a reggae tune and you're going to end up playing freaking cumbia, dude. You're going to start at 60 beats a minute and you're going to end up at like freaking 130 beats a minute.
Yeah.
That's a drummer thing. And a bass player has one function: to keep that groove.
Yeah.
And what a bass player will do with a drummer is to help to give him sort of a metronomic reference point, and also sort of a vibe check.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that is the function that the intangible that you get from our sessions, that's not just a bro that I could show my Jeep pictures or whatever, my truck
Right.
pictures to, or a guy that can talk to me when my chick is flipping her freaking gourd, or when my inner warrior is flipping its gourd. I think that the intangible is this masculine check-in week over week is a grounding reset, and knowing that I have that helps me throughout the week. Am I tooting my own
Yeah.
horn, or is that accurate?
Great analogy, 100%.
I have a question.
What that is?
I'm curious. I know we have a couple minutes left, but I'm curious how you think your son has benefited from you putting in the work with coaching.
Good. I'm glad you asked that, actually, and it actually kind of feeds into why I still need Dennis right now, at least for the next year. My son's 17 now. I think he's benefited a lot, and I think he can benefit a lot more because these challenges, boy, I was a troubled kid, and here comes the payback. I got a 17-year-old. He is a good kid. He's nothing like I was at all, but it's still, there's every time I get him, there's something. I love the kid to death, and he is an amazing, wonderful little human being that is going to just do awesome things in life. But he's a 17-year-old boy. And 16, 17-year-old boys, you are literally the dumbest you'll ever be in your whole life. I mean, you just, sorry, Gavin, if you listen to this, you're an idiot. I love it, but it just is. And so I I know that I'm going to need some support through this, and so I think to date, yes, he's definitely he's benefited a lot because I've changed as a man for sure. I mean, it transfers to all relationships, not just your female relationships, but you realize it transfers for to your work relationships, how you deal with colleagues, how once you gain confidence in one level of your life, it transfers over everywhere, and I carried myself in a really poor way for years. I thought it was where it's glaringly obvious was in my personal relationships, but then I realized that I was doing it in every relationship, with other men in my industry, everyone. And so, yeah, I think it's universal.
Which is good to hear, because he has 3 daughters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we were ending this on men need men, good luck, girls.
Yeah.
Just remember, stay quiet.
Yeah.
That's not
Right.
exactly. Or dad's gonna be in the bathroom
Right.
doing stuff. Yeah. So that's not exactly the message here. Look how
No.
red you got, bro. I did that. Life coach. All right, let's play. Let's play us off stage. Andrew, in a nutshell, and I'm thinking more walnut than coconut, what would you say this this episode was? What happened here today?
I think it's just obviously through Jonah's story, kind of the difference. Part of it's kind of started off like the difference between therapy and coaching, and then kind of like the evolution we go through while we're in coaching, and the impact that it can have on your life when you have that trusted masculine person, and for us it's you as a coach, but having that dude in your life to be able to navigate the shitstorms that we go through, and to not hide from it being hard, and us having emotions and us having feelings, and having someone that can like feel that storm, but also like grab you by the hand if you need it, sometimes kick you in the ass when you need it, and sometimes lead from the front, or lead from the side or wherever, So I think that just having these conversations is really helpful for all men as we navigate a lot of choppy waters, because it's hard more often than it's not, and that's kind of by design. That's how it's supposed to be. So
Well said. Well said. I noticed you said lead from the front, lead from the side.
I didn't go for the back.
Didn't beta there. I was gonna say.
I started saying it, but then I was like, no, we're gonna.
I totally saw that pivot.
Hey, sometimes you need to push from the back. Sometimes you need to be held back. Sometimes you need to be pushed sideways.
Sometimes you need to lead from the bottom. All right. On that note, Andrew, play us off stage.
All right, man. Well, this is Conversation to Dude. So if you got benefit from this, we do this for free. So what you could do for us is give us a review wherever you're listening to this. Subscribe if it's on YouTube. Share it with a dude that might benefit from the Bro Coach approach and conversations like this, and just stay in communication with us, because we're here to lift you up and here to keep being that shining light of masculinity, as corny as that sounds, to help you dudes navigate what you do. Yeah.
Life itself. Well said. On that note, audience, this is the Bro Coach Dennis Procopio signing off. We'll see you on the next one.